let's start to say, what would be the effect, sir? If I'm going to go out and work hard, we all have very limited resources. If we're going to work hard to get these things passed, what will be the effect? And if it doesn't repel Washington, if it doesn't restore our sovereignty, then we need to find another bill to support, and we need to find better teeth there. The executive branch clearly can begin to give some cover to local law enforcement, to counties, to cities, when they begin to stand against the federal government. I quoted from 1854 from Sherman Booth. I had an opportunity, and you may have heard me mention, to talk with the Attorney General's office about nullification interposition and what the state could do. And they referred me to the idea that we have 150 years of case law that says the states can't stand up against the federal government. But I think if we did some hard work, if we do some light work, we would find, even in the federal courts, some places to draw comfort. And many of you in this audience, I'm sure, will have heard of Sheriff Richard Mack from Arizona. If you'll pull that case, it's a 1997 U.S. Supreme Court case, you'll find Justice Scalia saying, "We've warned that this court has never sanctioned explicitly a federal command to the states to promulgate and enforce laws and regulations." Could somebody remind the EPA of that? See, that's 1990. You don't have to go back to 1854. You don't have to go back to before the U.S. Civil War. You can go back just to 1997 and quote Scalia, reminding us that this court has never sanctioned, ever. He goes on to say the federal government, we held, may not compel the states to enact or administer a federal regulatory program. You want to start listing those? No Child Left Behind, EPA stuff. I mean, hello. We held in 1997, the federal government may not compel the states to enact or administer a federal regulatory program. So you got to say to Austin, why are you guys enacting and administering federal regulatory programs? So when your neighbor says, I mean, don't we teach our 6-year-olds not to succumb to peer pressure? And yet we have our leaders succumbing to known unconstitutional action, and we just go along.
They're going to get our pressure.
When Mac talks about this case, he does go back to Madison, and I think that Madison's words are so compelling, they're worth repeating. He says, much of the Constitution is concerned with setting forth the form of our government, and the courts have traditionally invalidated measures deviating from that form. The result may appear formalistic in a given case to partisans of the measure at issue, because such measures are typically the product of the error's perceived necessity. Anybody perceiving we need better health care in America today? Anybody perceiving we need secure borders? Yeah. But the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. It divides power among sovereigns. See, there's a sovereign federal government who has been given enumerated powers as listed in Article 1, Section 8, and only those powers listed in Article 1, Section 8. All other authority rests with the states and the people. It divides power among sovereigns and among branches of government precisely so that we may resist the temptation to concentrate power in one location as an expedient solution to the crisis of the day. The tools are right in front of us. The leaders, in fact, ought to be sitting in the right elected office. This is a conservative Republican state. So I'm not sure that it's really their fault as much as it is ours. We have, for a year and a half now, rallied all around this nation and all around this state at Tea Party events and 9/12 events, and every one of us, almost to the man, has walked into the voting booth and continued to vote the way we have always voted. And unless we have the courage to do something different, we are going to continue to get what we have been getting. I think we have a very narrow window of time. I know that our elected officials will talk about restoring sovereignty. If you want them to be even close to as bold as Booth, I would prefer to see every federal officer in Texas hanged on a gallows 50 cubits higher than Haman's than I would to violate the Constitution. If you want to see your state there, then I believe we have roughly, 60 days between now and November to get these state representatives on record on specific issues of state sovereignty. Because after November, it will be same as usual, $18 billion budget deficit, redistricting. The crisis of our day is a constitutional crisis. The crisis of our day is the survival of our republic. In every interview that I've given for the last 6 or 8 months, I have been asked about my endorsement, and I have said we are mistaken when we treat politics like an athletic contest. This is not a game. This is a war. You are fighting for your own freedom, and you're fighting for the freedom of your children and theirs. And if we fail in this generation, a future one will bleed to return again what we have squandered. I cannot thank you enough for the active role that you've taken in public policy debate. I don't mean to criticize, but I do want to exhort and say we've got to do more. We have been too easily persuaded by rhetoric, and we have not demanded action. Sherman Booth took action. He was willing to get out there publicly, to be arrested in standing for a man's freedom and liberty and protecting that. We've got to do that here in Texas, and we have, the fields are ripe for harvest because Washington is coming in everywhere. So I encourage you to study. If you've not picked up a copy of Nullification, it is a great read. It's an easy read. It's a quick read, and it's got a ton of resource in it so that you can get back to the source documents and draw wisdom and counsel from our founders and from those who have gone before us in the defense of freedom and liberty. I thank you for your time tonight and for the work that you're doing. Thank you very much.